It's PGA Tuesdays. That means we're going birdie hunting tonight in the fantasy football garage. We're going to be drafting the Albatross. We're also looking at the ADP risers and fallers over the last week. We'll get into which players have moved up in OWGR, who's qualified for the majors, who's no longer qualified, and which players are getting hot. So we're going to draft some Albatross. We're also going to talk a fantasy preview for the Cognizant Classic. And we're going to be drafting the Underdog Open. We're talking one and dones and going through the player pool. We're going to look at the data models, the tournament predictor, and also talk through some of the tournament stats and course history to make our best picks this week for the Cognizant Classic. Let's jump right into the numbers. Let's get into the spreadsheet and let's see what's going on. Happy Tuesday night. This is the sheet. This is our tracking. This is Birdie Hunting. It is a weekly PGA fantasy and best ball show here in the Fantasy Football Garage. And the first thing I want to get into is the biggest risers and fallers in the Albatross ADP over the last week. So what we're going to do, we're going to scroll through the list about the top 70 players, and we can see exactly what's going on here. This is my data model that I use to draft. I'll zoom in just a little bit more. Boom. And I've been tracking ADP since the tournament open. We are now we've passed a full month. The tournament opened back at the end of January. We've been drafting for a month now. And I've got the last 4 weeks of ADP here on the sheet loaded. I'm highlighting the players that have been rising. And this is the top picks in the first round. John Rahm has been consistently rising since he was going 5 overall. He's now closer to 4 overall. Fleetwood's been slightly, falling. And Hideki's been a big riser in the last month, going from pick 10 to pick 7 or 8, which coincides with his great start to the year and his runner-up finishes. We go through the list. Really, 2 names kind of stand out to me right off the bat. 2 of the early risers, Matt Fitzpatrick in the last month has risen from going at pick 16 to pick 11. He's been hot. He's rising up. He's been playing well. We also have Colin Morikawa after his win at Pebble Beach. He was hovering around, pick 20 or so for the last month. He's now going pick 13, and I've seen him, go 12 overall. So Colin Morikawa, the biggest riser in the last month, taking the place of guys like Victor Hovland. Quickly, I think he's going to end up surpassing even Cam Young, who's been steadily kind of drafted at the 11 or 12 overall for the last month. Chris Gotterup, 2-time winner on the PGA Tour this season already. He continues. He's kind of steadied out around pick 13. I think for him, he could become a staple of the second round, but there's a lot of resistance to getting past guys like Colin, who continues to rise, Matt Fitzpatrick, and then some of just the top overall players in the world like a Russell Henley. So he's kind of found his spot right there. A player that's fallen just a little bit because he hasn't had a terrible start to the season, but just Robert McIntyre, the big lefty, Bob, hasn't done so much to get himself to move up in ADP. Justin Rose, he's kind of settled into his spot about 15 overall after going about pick 20 a month ago, getting his win this season as well at the American Express. Siwoo Kim, who just continues to dominate and finish top 10 after top 10 this season. He's been a riser. He's gone from pick 27 or so to the kind of the mid 20s and about pick 20. Now he's at 17 overall, taking the place of guys like Ben Griffin, who's been falling just a bit, and Brooks Koepka, the biggest faller on the list over the last month. That's kind of in this range of the first 3 rounds. He goes from a second or third round pick to being squarely in the 4th round. I think we're going to avoid drafting Brooks Koepka for the minute until we see some things turn around from him. He is in the field this week at the Cognizant. So he's one of the top players in the field, but he hasn't been playing like a top player. Patrick Reed continues to rise, and we've been talking about this on the channel the whole time. But Patrick Reed going at ADP 22 right now and continuing to rise week over week, like we predicted. So he's been killing it on the DP World Tour, and I think he's a great draft pick for this majors only PGA best ball, the Albatross on Underdog. You know what really stands out to me? Akshay has been playing pretty nice, so Akshay continues to rise. Justin Thomas gets the green light, so I think we'll see Justin Thomas debut at Bay Hill, and we'll get more information there. But I think his ADP right now is justifiable. If he does well at Bay Hill and he has no setbacks, he could skyrocket up into like the third round. Min Woo Lee has continued to rise. He has gone from being about 50th in the world to almost top 30 in the world over the last month with his finishes. And I think he's a fun pick in this format. He's on track to be qualified for all 4 of the majors, so that's a good sign. And he is now, one of the hottest risers right now, going at about pick 33 overall, rising just about 15 spots in the last month. Another hot riser, Jake Knapp, and he's also on track to be qualified for all 4 majors now in the last week, cracking the top 50 in OWGR. He's 43rd in the world right now, and he has been rising really, really fast. He's risen 30 spots in the last month, going from not a great draft pick because he's only qualified for maybe 2 majors to having some nice finishes in the last couple weeks on tour and really solidifying himself as a good pick. So I'm going to be taking some more Jake Knapp in this range to balance out my exposures, get some more Jake Knapp. Jacob Bridgman coming off a win at the Genesis, huge, winning at Riv, very, very strong field. He goes from a top 50 player in the world to a top 20 player in the world. And we were already drafting a ton of Jacob Bridgman in the 50s, where he'd been going this entire draft season. He's now going to be jumping into, just like Jake Knapp, kind of this early 30s range. So if you don't already have your exposure to Jacob Bridgman, start hammering him now. I think he's a good pick. He's proven he can play well in a really strong field. Ryan Gerard, I think, also fits this bill. He'd been consistently rising with his good performances to start the season. Hasn't got a win yet, but I think he is a great pick in this format. And he's been pretty steady, kind of, going in that same late 30s range for a couple weeks now. Neiman continues to be the worst pick on the board, unless you just think he somehow dominates the Live Golf League over the next couple of weeks. And otherwise, he has no shot of getting to the Masters, and he's really only qualified for the PGA. So he's just getting drafted on name brand alone. I would avoid him. Adam Scott is going to be in all 4 majors. He just got status to get into the US Open and has been playing decently well too. So I think Adam Scott's a totally good pick here. Pearson Cody has been getting drafted higher and higher over the last couple weeks. He also should be in all 4 of the majors, and it's a pretty fun up-and-coming name to click, so I like that in this range. I myself, even though he's been a big faller, I've got a bunch of Brian Harmon and who else? A whole lot of Cameron Smith. So those are 2 guys that I was taking in this range. I'm now going to be taking more Knapp and potentially some Scott, to mix them in, where I've been taking Harmon and Smith most of my drafts in this range. Also, Kurt Kitayama had a nice finish. He jumps up to 29th in the world, and I think Kurt Kitayama is a pretty decent click in this format. We've got some issues here, though. As we get down the board, Nikolai Højgaard, who is in the field this week for the COG and could improve his standing, he's no longer qualified for the Masters over the last 2 weeks, falling out of the top 50 in the OWGR. He's borderline. He could still get in. He's currently guaranteed to only be in one of the major events, and he's on track to be qualified for 2 others. So Højgaard, a risky pick, but there's some upside there. I think he's been a guy that I like to click occasionally. This price is a little risky, but he's been playing well, so I think it's an okay pick. Ryu Hisatsune is a kind of a risky pick for the same kind of reasons, and his play was, really strong lately, but do I think he's going to win a major this year? Almost certainly not. Could he have a nice finish in a major? Sure. I would rather take a guy like Andrew Novak or Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson or Sam Stevens, Michael Thor Bjornsson, who are on track to be qualified for all 4 of the majors versus a guy like Hisatsune, who's probably only in, half of them or maybe 3 of them. Marco Pinge also is on track to be in 3 of the majors. And, he's been a good pick in this range, but I still like some of the names after him more. Max Homa continues to be a very bad pick. He's on track to be in 2 of the majors, just not enough for me. Another name who recently got a big bump up was Aldrich Potgieter. He jumps up to 71st in the world. He's already qualified for 2 of the majors, and he's conditionally qualified, on track to be in a 3rd. So he could continue to rise. I think he's a fair pick. And that's kind of the end of the range here. I mean, there's the guys we've been drafting like Christopher Wrightson, Sami Välimäki, Matt McCarty. Their statuses have all remained the same. They're going to be in, looks like, all 4 of the majors. Michael Brennan, if you scroll down even further. Other than that, no huge changes. I would say a couple guys have bounced in and out of a major or 2. But those are the big ADP changes so far. That's what we're tracking here. And by the way, this Birdie Hunting sheet, my data model, it's available to all of my YouTube members. So if you become a premium monthly member to the Fantasy Football Garage channel, you get access to my Birdie Hunting Google sheet that I'll share with you. Just hit me up, fantasyfootballgarage@gmail.com. You can also DM me on Twitter at FFB or find me on Discord if we share a server. I'm in a bunch of those at Chris_the Candyman. So hit me up if you become a channel member. If you want to get access to the sheet, I'm tracking ADP, data golf ranks, OWGR, and qualifications into the majors weekly. I'm also tracking the tournament history. So that's what we have over here to the right. The players' tournament histories at Augusta, the PGA, the US Open, and the Open Championship, helping us drafting better teams, making informed decisions. And yeah, so that's kind of some of the stuff I wanted to jump into. I think we kind of covered most of the ADP changes I was thinking about and the players who are qualified for 3 or 4 events and who are good targets. So I'm gonna say what up to everyone in the chat, and let's jump right into an Albatross draft. I think I got it loaded up here. Boom. All right, let's see how many more people we need. Classic Underdog. Refresh the browser and rejoin. So first, we're going to start off with a Albatross, and then we'll get into some research for the Cog this week, talking one and dones, and drafting the Underdog Open, which is the Battle Royale, the weekly tournament. You can draft the entire field of the Cog this week. It's pretty fun stuff. I've done a few of them already. We'll rip a bunch of those tonight. Of course, we got my man Jeff T in the chat. Good to see you, Jeff. Thank you for joining us. As a PGA Tour golfer committed to play in the Cognizant Classic. Yeah, the field is shrinking. I mean, a lot of the top guys were not already going to be in it, and even more withdrew in the last 24 hours. We'll talk more about that as we get into our Cognizant prep. Waiting on 3 to fill a Albatross draft on Underdog. Jump in here if you want to draft with me. We got Bindles in here. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Bindles and I had the one, the only Emo Cowboy on as a guest last night for our Monday show, Ballsy, where we draft the big board. We talk NFL best ball, and we had a great time. So check that one out if you haven't already. Hell yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been stoked on Patrick Reed the whole time that the contest has been open. I mean, he's just been delivering on the DP World Tour, and he's a dog. Not only, let's get into it. Patrick Reed, yo, what's up, Hartman? My guy, throwing out the blue Lambo. Good to see you, Hartman. Thanks for being here. So Patrick Reed. This is his tournament history at Augusta. 3rd, 12th, 4th over the last 3 years. 35th, 8th. So he's a killer at Augusta National. We already know he has a green jacket. His history at the PGA, it's okay. Cut 53, not great the last 2 years. 18th, 34th, 17th. So marginal. I mean, relatively good. He's at least playing in it most years. The U.S. Open, 23rd. Looks like a no contest the year before that. 56th, 49th, 19th. Just fine. I think he can do better. And then the Open, not great course history at the Open. But what really carries him is his performance at Augusta and the chance that he can have like a top 25 or a top 10 at any of the other majors. He's just a veteran who had been on the tour before going over to the Live Golf League. I think he can get it done. He's a major winner. He can give us a nice finish. Still waiting on 3 more for the Albatross. I probably should have jumped into the Albatross before we reviewed all the ADP, but hey, now we have more time just to get into it. Minwoo does seem fun, but also someone you may not want to chase up the board too hard. Yeah, I would agree with FK here. What's up, Coolers? How we doing, brother? Minwoo, he did win on the PGA Tour last year at the Houston Open. He is a top 30 golfer in the world right now, 33 golfer in the world. Data Golf has him about 31, so it's pretty consistent. He's getting drafted, at pick 32, 33. So this is a fair range, but I understand the concerns. Minwoo Lee's history at Augusta last year, not so good, 49th. And then in 3 of the previous, in 2 of his previous 4 attempts, he has a top 25, so 22 and a 14. Respectable. Maybe he can do better. We're trying to get the upside on him. Not so great at the PGA. His best finish in the last 4 years is an 18. Across his U.S. Open finishes, though, he finished 5th at the U.S. Open back in 2023. Yeah, that would have been in 2023 in Los Angeles, where Wyndham Clark won. Minwoo Lee got 5th that year. So that's a good signal that he can compete in these stronger fields, in the majors. I know it was 3 years ago, but you gotta start racking up some course history, some good finishes to have a chance to win it in the future. I think it's a big indicator. Not great at the Open. There's one top 25, a bunch of cuts. But in this range, and what this last column is here, it's in the last 5 years across the last 20 majors, how many top 25s, top 10s, top 5s did the player have? And then specifically at the Open, which is, the Open is all that matters. That's where all the money is in this tournament. There's 200 people in the final and it's at the Open, so you want to be strong there. What's the course history at the Open? 25s, 10s, and 5s finishes. For Minwoo Lee, in his last 20 majors, which he didn't even play all of them because he didn't make a bunch of them, but, you know, the opportunity to play in 20 majors, he's got 6 top 25s. It's okay. In this range, you see it kind of drop off. There's a few players who have that kind of history. It drops off pretty quick. So I would say 6 is respectable, but only, you know, 1 top 10. We saw it as a number, also 1 top 5. We saw that as US Open in 2023. And then a little bit lacking at the Open. So there, with some reservation, Minwoo Lee's kind of a fun player, a social media icon. You know, he's got the whole let him cook chef thing going. Dr. Chapinski, his alter ego, or just his ego. But Minwoo Lee, super fun player. He's getting a little expensive. You could argue you'd rather have like a Corey Connors or a Keegan Bradley, maybe even Jason Day. Or even just a guy like Jacob Bridgman, Ryan Gerard, who've had some consistent success to start the year. Or a guy like Wyndham Clark, who could be streaky but has already won a major. So I think yeah, Minwoo Lee's priced up at the higher end of the tier that he should be in, but you just want to have some exposure to these guys. I was drafting a bunch of Minwoo Lee. I had about 30% Minwoo Lee in the first couple weeks of this tournament when he was going in the late 50s. And I've probably backed off a little bit since then just to diversify my picks in general. I do think his new price is a little bit steep considering he's got to maintain his OWGR to get into a lot of these tournaments, but it seems like he will, being 33rd in the world right now at this point in the season. Still waiting on 2 more to fill an Albatross draft. Hartman says, have you looked at your Cognizant stuff for the scramble? Do you look at that kind of thing before the tourney? Yeah. Well, we're going to get into that. Thanks for reminding me. So this is the last week for our round 1 advancing for our scramble teams. I have been looking at it. I want to share a site with y'all. Let me remove this real quick. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to go to my Twitter. I retweeted something earlier this week. I want y'all to see this. It is a website that is just like BBMDB, but it's for tracking our scrambles. So if you haven't already checked it out, you need to get in on it. I'm about to open it now. It is called bb-golf.com. All right. So this is bb-golf.com. I retweeted it here. You can find it on my Twitter, or you can go and find the guy, Mark Schneider, at Schneider610. And the first thing he was tweeting out really was this right here. Only 25% of teams in the scramble have 6+ players at the COG this week. Look at that distribution. It's pretty left weighted. That's bad. So this is good stuff. And I need to recheck it because I checked it 2 days ago before all these withdrawals. So I'm sure it's even, I mean, this number has gone down because of the guys who have withdrawn in the last couple hours, last day. So we'll jump more into our sweats for the scramble this week. I think my advance rate's sitting at about 25% right now, which is about 50% above the field average. So I'm feeling pretty good about my advance rate in the scramble. In the Pat Mayo, which was a 15 max and a 2 out of 6 advance, I'm advancing, I think, 9 teams, so I'm killing it there. And then there's a few other size tournaments. There's a few other scrambles we can, but anyways, we can track that later. We'll get into it as before we draft for the Cog this week. We can sweat out our scrambles because I'm actually really interested to see with the last 4 players that withdrew from Cognizant since the end of the Genesis Sunday, how that impacts the field, how that impacts my teams as well. But I was looking pretty good. I think I had like twice as many teams as expected with 5 golfers at the Cog, and then I was like about expected for 6, 7, and 8, golfer teams. And I think what hurt me a lot was Ben Griffin withdrawing and Patrick Rogers withdrawing were 2 guys that I thought would definitely play it or could and should play it, played it last year. So I get the 101. Feels pretty good. I feel like I don't have my exposure through the first 50 drafts or so is like 16% or 15% or 16% Scotty Scheffler. So I'm pretty even. I don't really have a big advantage on the 101 right now. Yeah, Patrick Reed delivering, of course. Yeah, what's up, Uhames? Good to see you, brother. No hats. Let's go. Yeah. Rory McIlroy, famously no hat in his picture. What does it mean? Is it good? Is it bad? So I get Scheffler at the 101. This team has a chance. Feels good. I've got 2 players in mind. I've got some combinations. I want to start to track my combinations too, because I have some combinations with like Scheffler and Hideki at pick 12, where he was going last month. He doesn't go there anymore. So that feels kind of unique. And I doubt Hideki falls back there in the next month or so. We have just over a month until close, until Augusta. He's off on, I want to say April 9th. I have a bunch of teams with Colin. So Colin goes 11 here. ADP would say to go Cam Young or Victor. I'm going to go Goddard. And then I can take my pick at Victor, Cam Young, Rose, Hovland. I'm definitely going Goddard first. Just feels like a really strong pick this year. Something good could happen for him. And I'm a huge fan of Hovland, Cam Young, and McIntyre. I'm going to see how quick I can check my exposures to see which one I have a little bit less of. Cam Young, 21. Hovland, 23. Let's go Cam Young. Just to stay a little bit balanced. I have slightly more Hovland at the moment, so I don't mind that. I have the only Scotty Scheffler, and then Chris Goddard, of course, has not won a major. Neither has Cam Young. So I'm kind of getting a little bit bold there. Hovland has not won a major either. So to pick those kind of guys, you are betting that they probably can win their first major for you, drafting them in this range. If not, just consistent top 5, top 10 performances across all of the majors, which I think is the most realistic. But that kind of tournament history, at least for guys like Hovland, Cam Young, is also pretty indicative that they might be able to win a major. And Siwoo Kim's a great pick. Justin Rose a great pick in the 3rd round. The 3rd round's pretty nice right now. There's a lot of good picks there. Yeah, Ludwig is a interesting pick. I'm not going to advocate for being overexposed to Ludwig in the 8th overall. I think Ludwig should be going in like the 4th round. He has some good history at the majors, but it's not good enough to, he hadn't been playing that. He hadn't been that impressive to start the season. So I will say that. But yeah, exactly like Jeff says, he could easily just turn it around in the majors and burn us all. Okay, here I have the option of going JJ Spawn, English, Lowry, Hatton, Connors. All decent picks. I'm going to, again, check my exposure as fast as I can on Spawn. I think I'm going to take Spawn first. And then English, I know I have a bunch of. I'm a little bit underexposed to Lowry. I have a lot of Connors. I'm a little underexposed to Hatton, but I'm going to go ahead and take Lowry here. How did Spawn finish at... I want to check in on this. What did he do at the Genesis? I don't remember. That's right. When I filter to the last 25 rounds, moving average, and then compare him to a line that shows top 10 on Data Golf, Spawn is still hovering around a top 10 player. Even though he got cut at the Genesis, he's had a rough start to the year. Did well at the Hero T4, but then 40 at Sony, cut Farmers, 45th at Pebble, cut Genesis. So Spawn has been had a pretty rough start to the year. I don't have a ton of Spawn exposure, but obviously he won the US Open last year, got runner-up at the Players, so... Nice. Okay, I'm going to probably go Connors, who I have a ton of, but this is a good range to get Connors. And then Gerard, I have almost 40% Gerard. Do I want to go Day instead? I'm a little underexposed to Day. I'm actually pretty underexposed to Harry Hall, too. ADP would say maybe go Knapp. So I'm going to go Connors Knapp. The more I think about it. To work on my Knapp exposure, because I was holding off on clicking him a bunch when he wasn't going to be qualified for all of the majors. He was a much cheaper ADP, so he's one of the later players that I was not clicking that has risen a bunch compared to guys like Gerard or Gotterup or Bridgman or Minwoo Lee that I already have a huge bag of. So I do want to get some more Knapp exposure. I think 37 is a good place to do it. JT went in the 4th round. Went in the 3rd my draft last night. Get JT now. He'll be too expensive soon. This is true. This is probably true. I want to see him play at the Arnold Palmer, but he's going to get steamed up, before then. He went pick 23 in this draft. So his ADP is close to 27. I think by next week it's going to be close to 20, which would be kind of the 3-4 turn. And then he could easily continue to rise. I'm still skeptical, though. So the worst pick on the board, Neiman, goes at 42. Unfortunately, the drafter just is not aware that he's not really qualified for these majors, but it helps out the rest of us in this room. We got my man Hartman in the 4 spot, draft with us. Can you even draft JT after he sailed that shot? Hey, Hartman watching the TGL. I've got it. I hope recorded. I got to go back and watch it. I watched a little bit tonight, but I've had a hard time with my schedule catching the TGL matches live, which is like, I love watching them. So I'm bummed that I'm not been catching them live as much. Kitty Yamagos, nice pick. Cootie, Pearson Cootie. I don't take a ton of Nick Taylor. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my 9th overall pick. I'm either going to go Taylor or Novak. Or Fox. Taylor to start the year has also been pretty underwhelming, but did I miss something? He's been okay. He doesn't have a good majors history. What about Novak? Let's go, if I can get it in 5 seconds, let's go Nick Taylor. I'm cool with Nick Taylor here. He's going to be in the majors. He just doesn't have a great tournament history really anywhere. Only one top 25. And it was last year at the US Open, which is okay, but so I don't have a ton of Nick Taylor. I'm drafting a player. I mean, this is a new combo for me to get a Scotty Scheffler with Nick Taylor. I probably don't have that in my bag, considering I have so few Nick Taylor shares. But that's something I want to do going forward. Now that I've done about 50 Albatross drafts, is which combinations do I have, and really focusing on the combinations I have with Scotty Scheffler, because I think that's where most of the effort should be spent when you're looking at your portfolio. If you're drafting a bunch of teams like I am, maybe even maxing this thing, is, you know, if you assume your Scotty Scheffler team has about twice the odds of all your other teams to win or to advance or to do well, then you really want to make sure you're varying the combinations and picks you get with your Scotty Scheffler. It's not just always the same 6 or 5 players out of your 12 you pair up with Scotty, because Scotty goes at 101 and you're consistently taking players on the left side of the board. So pulling some players up, making some stands on some guys, and then making sure your last 3 or 4 picks are varied, I think is a good thing to do from just a game theory perspective and the strategy around, you know, diversifying your teams for maximum coverage, giving yourself the best chance to win this thing. Yeah, the TGL. I gotta watch more TGL. I have the tonight. I know it's a doubleheader tonight. I have the first TGL match from tonight paused on the TV in the other room, if I can only get to watch it later. And then the one from last night, I watched a little bit of it, but didn't get to watch it all. Hopefully it's recorded. The timing on the TGL, they start so early. They're doing like the whole East Coast timing thing, and they've just been starting them too early for me to catch them live. And then even if they're later at night, it's like they need to be posting the TGL matches to YouTube for everyone to watch for free with ads. Who cares? But like afterwards, they get millions of views on YouTube. I don't know why they're not doing that. They put up like highlights, but it's not really worth it. It's not as interesting. I'd rather just watch the whole thing and enjoy and kind of get immersed in it. So I like watching a TGL match when I can, but I'm bummed the schedule that they've been using for the TGL matches has been pretty rough. Okay, so Rasmus, Nørgaard Peterson, Michael Thor Bjornsson, smash picks in this range. Guys who are going to play all 4 of the majors, and I feel good about. So I'll take both of those guys. Thor Bjornsson was playing with the Boston Common team last night. I forget if I think maybe it was Boston Common playing on the doubleheader, the second match tonight too. Because I thought I heard that Rory was not going to be in that, but that would still be like Keegan, and I'm assuming Thor Bjornsson. The funny comment they made about the LA team is that they have Fleetwood, Morikawa, and Rose all on the same TGL team, and those are 3 of the top 5 golfers in the world right now, which is pretty funny how stacked that team is. Hartman going with Penge, Stevens, Potgieter, very solid picks. I think Potgieter, I was drafting him a bunch a couple weeks ago, and I kind of started to fade on him a little bit, but his recent performance at the Genesis, jumping up in the OWGR, and he's going to be in probably 3 out of the 4 majors, if not, if he can get into the 4th one for him, he needs to qualify for, let's go find him. Where is Potgieter? He's in the Masters. He's in the Open conditionally. He recently got into. He's in the PGA. If he can only get in the US Open by being top 60 ranked in the world, there's a chance he can move up. And he's a pretty fun profile, winning last year on the tour. Finau, a very bad pick. Homa, not my favorite pick. Hisatsune only qualified for 2 of the majors. So the drafter in the 6th spot, just, he's got some good players on his team, but he's made some kind of bad structural team choices. He's just missing a few. You're kind of showing up to the Masters without a full lineup. He'll have 6 golfers plus at the Masters, but he doesn't have a whole lot on his bench to draw from. So I'm going to go Kiefer here if he's there. Otherwise, McCarty or Wrighton. I'm going to look at my exposure to Kiefer. 13% Kiefer. I could get some more. McCarty, I'm at 54%. Don't tell anybody. But I got a lot of McCarty. So I need to work that down a little bit, but I also like it. Wrighton at 19, or Wrighton at 19%. Let's go Kiefer. Kiefer is one of the higher dollar players this week at the Cog in the field. And maybe he does something there. Maybe he gets a nice little win. His first PGA Tour win. Yeah. There's an edge for sure, Jeff, to drafting in the Albatross and kind of keeping tabs on things, player qualifications into the majors, not just drafting off of name. I'm bummed about Sungjae Im. We just have not heard anything about Sungjae Im and his injury. No idea when he's going to make his debut on the PGA Tour. Have you guys heard anything about Sungjae? I haven't heard anything about him. So, not sure when he's coming back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the McCarty click. He should get into all of the majors. We'll go back and look at McCarty here. I mean, he's probably my top exposed player right now. It's hard for me to get off of him as a late round pick, Matt McCarty. He's never really risen in this format, even though he's been a top 40 player in the world for the last month. He's in at the Masters. He should be in at all the other majors. He has no real tournament history, but he was playing on the Korn Ferry Tour 2 years ago. Last year was his first real year on the PGA Tour, and this is his second real year there, and I think he's got some promise. Not saying he's going to win a major, but at the last pick in the draft, you're looking for a guy that can at least get you some points, score, and maybe a top 25 would be nice in one or more events. So the final team here from the 101, Scotty Scheffler, Chris Gotterup, Cam Young, JJ Spawn, Shane Lowry. That's my core. Then I've got just, a veteran who does well at the majors, and Corey Connors, up-and-comer Jake Knapp, also PGA Tour winner. Big-time up-and-comer Pearson Coody. Nick Taylor, PGA Tour veteran, never won a major, never really done that great in the majors. Can he find a spark? Kind of in the... He plays well. I mean, he wins on the PGA Tour almost every year. So he's the last couple of years, few years, he can surprise, I think. But I'm not super overexposed to him. He gets drafted 100% of the time, but to me he's in all the majors, but not the most exciting. But You never know. You just want to have some exposure to a lot of these guys who are just good. Golf's a hard game. Rasmus, Nørgaard Peterson, Thor Bjornsson, and Kiefer should be in all 4 of the majors. And so guys you can plug in at the end of the drafts that I think are pretty fun. Let's switch gears. Let's look at the leaderboard. Ooh, my eyes so bright. For the scramble, the leaderboard for the scramble. But what we want to actually look at is 2 things. One, here's golfer advance rate. And then you look at the number of advancing teams or number of pod winners. Yeah, pod winners. So this is now updated because you see Bridgman up there. It was Siwoo Kim 2 days ago. Now Bridgman's the number 1 pod winner. So in the scramble, you're most likely to be winning your pod if you have Bridgman, Siwoo Kim, Knapp, Ryan Gerard, Sam Stevens, Chris Gotterup, Scotty Scheffler, Matt McCarty. Ever heard of him? Kurt Kitayama, McNeely, Hideki, Spieth. Ever heard of him? Harry Hall, McGreevy, Kiefer. So I'm overexposed to a bunch of these players. My advance rate's pretty solid. As I was saying, of these top, this looks like, I don't know, like 18 picks. This would kind of weighted average even out to an advance rate. If you had a lot of these players, you're going to be somewhere in the, I'd say, high 20s, and that's exactly where my advance rate is. It's, I think, at 25 or 27 right now, the last time I checked. And we can check. We can pull up my team. We can look at my distribution for the COG, which we'll get into, and we'll look at the field too. But this is a fun website. I'm going to post this in the chat for y'all to check it out. bb-golf.com, bestball-golf.com. And I think it's pretty cool. I've been messing around with it a little bit, but I haven't like really spent too much time on it. But I think it's some fun stuff we can look into. Sweat our scramble teams. Sungjae scheduled for the Houston Open. I saw an article a day or 2 ago. Not sure if that means much, though. Yeah. He could come back and play the Masters. A wrist injury is kind of concerning. He did play Houston last year. I saw him there in person. He was in a group with Wyndham Clark and Rory McIlroy on Friday. So it's a pretty fun group to tail for a little bit. Sungjae didn't play too well, but yeah, I think, we'll have to start keeping tabs on Sungjae and his injury because he's qualified. This is Sungjae's page. He's qualified for the Masters. He's qualified for the US Open and the Open. He should be on track to qualify for the PGA almost certainly, but he has fallen to 70th in the world right now with his injury and missing time. So, but his majors history, he's pretty good at Augusta. He had a T5 there last year. 2 years ago at the Open, he had a T7. He's had a T8 at Augusta and a T2 at Augusta in 2020. So Sungjae is good at Augusta National. He's got a decent majors history. His ADP right now, I think it's in a range where potentially, if we're getting signs that he's going to come back and be playing, it's interesting. Potentially, we might want to start hammering him in the 50s because I do think, given health, if he's playing like himself, he is a better pick than some of the guys that go right after him and a few of the guys that go before him, like even Nick Taylor. But obviously Neiman, probably Rasmus, probably Noren. If Sungjae was going where he should be going, it'd probably be, if he's healthy, probably in the low 40s. And I don't know if he ever gets back to like the low 30s again. So I'll have some. He's burned me in the scramble, though, as I'm sure he has all of you guys too. API website has Sungjae in the field. Okay. So maybe we start drafting a little bit of Sungjae. Advanced percent to show the real best pick. I think the advanced percent, I looked at that the other day too. I think that's, yeah, it's completely skewed. It's skewed because like Cootie, obviously, and then he wasn't even drafted every time. So you can get that out of it. There's some things in here like Dow, you know, Aaron Rodgers, Cameron Champ. So there's some weird things in here. You can scroll down a bit though, and I know what you're saying, Hartman. Like, but then there's some players with, you know, S.H. Kim is advancing in 34% of his teams, but he's only drafted 230 times. So there's some weird things in here. I prefer to look at the number of pod winners. And then you could, I guess, also divide that by the percent drafted to get a true kind of signal on how impactful the player is, because a guy like, you know, Cootie being underdrafted and then having a great advance rate, because if you look at advance rate or even pod win percentage, it kind of is skewed in a weird way. Let's go look at, this is the golfer advance rate. Look, we can look at users. Is this where I searched for me? Yeah, Candyman. Boom. 46 fast, 104 slows. That sounds about right. 25.3% advancing. That's been about what it is. Currently advancing 38 teams. That's been about what I've had. You know, I think the highest I've seen it get to was 50. At one point I was at 50 very early on. 37 in first place, 1 wild card, whatever that means. And I've got a bunch of teams in second that are close. That's one thing I'm hopeful for with the Cognizant, is that I have more golfers on average than the field. DMH 09. I won't shame you, Hartman. I will not shame your advance rate. It only takes one, brother. It only takes one. Can set minimum drafting amount. Okay, there's some good stuff here. Yeah, I see it. Minimum teams up here. Moldy Pancake is a better pick than Neiman. I would agree. This is also true. It's funny that Aaron Rodgers is available to pick. I don't understand that. Is there an actual golfer named Aaron Rodgers, or is that the Aaron Rodgers? And why is he in the player pool? But honestly, on Underdog, if you look at the player pool, it's every golfer who's ever golfed on the PGA Tour in like the last... I don't know how to explain it, because like Arnold Palmer's in the field, Gary Player's in the field, Jack Nicklaus is in, like, all of these golfers are in the field. It's pretty wild stuff. And I don't know if that's the scramble, but I know it's for the Albatross. And maybe it's just like they just make it so extensive that it includes like all major winners ever or something. It's been falling, sadly. This week looks okay for me to get some back, though. Hell yeah, we'll get some back. Don't worry. This week is traditionally in the scramble. The last week has been a huge momentum swinging week for advance rates. This year it's the Cognizant, and let's get some more teams through. Look at this guy up here, Nike 2100, advancing 61% of his teams. That means he just drafted Siwoo Kim in the first round with every pick that wasn't Scotty Scheffler, is essentially what that means. And then also he must have had a bunch of Goddard up and Bridgman, Cootie, maybe some other good picks, but crazy. Yeah, to have some of the top advance rates. Here's Schneider 610 himself, who created this website. Here's our friend FK in the chat. FK Coolers with a nice 28.5% advance rate. And we keep scrolling. Here's me, Candyman. Pretty good. 38 teams. Let's get some more. I want to get 40 or 45 teams through. Would make me feel really good. This is the distribution for the Cognizant Classic. And it is updated. Excuse me. It is updated to the current withdrawn players because it says so, and up here on the last updated time. And I can already tell because it was 25% of teams with 6 or more, and now it's 8.5, 2.5, so that gets us to 11. Only 11% of teams have 6 or more golfers, and then add another 19%. About 30% of teams have 5 or more. So if you have 5 or more, that's great. 56% have 4 or more. So about half the field has 4 or more, but half have less. So you're gonna want to have a lot of your teams remaining have at least 4, which I think is reasonable given all the withdrawals. That you could have expected you had 6 and you end up with 4. I think that happened to me quite a bunch of times. Quite a lot of times, a bunch of times. And the number of teams I have with 6 remaining is less than I even expected because of the withdrawals. I have got a bunch with 4 remaining and a bunch with 5. Let's look into it. So knowing those thresholds, it's 11% with 6 or more. It's 30% with 5 or more. And it's 56% with 4 or more. How are my teams looking for the COG? So I'm in yellow. I'm saying I'm looking pretty good. My percentage with 6 or more is 1, 2, 3, 9.7. So just about the same as the field, 6 or more. But 5 or more, I've got 25% of my teams with 5 compared to about less than, about 19% for the field. So that's a nice little gap for me there in my favor. So versus 30% of the field having 5 or more, that's like 3, 10. I'm like 35%. So I'm about 5% higher. So before the withdrawals, I was doing a little bit better, but a lot of that fell to my category 4. 35% of my teams are at 4. So that gets me to 66% of my teams with 4 or more, compared to about 56% of the field with that many. So I'm about 10% of my teams are going to have an advantage over the rest of the field. And if I can convert half of that, or even a quarter of that, to going from a second place, or if I can convert like half or a quarter of my second place teams, that would go a long way. I have a bunch of second place teams right now. So if I had to guess, I think I'm going to gain teams that advance this week compared to the field, mostly losing teams that are in first. They're going to fall out of first. It's hard to know, though, because, like, if I have a team that's in first by a long margin and they have 6 players in the cog already, it's not really going to make a difference. But, if I have a team that's in second and has 4 or 5 or 6 players, that could really help. So there's a lot to look into, and we can look into it as well, because if you look here, we have, and I forgot this existed. I kind of was just like riffing there, but what place you're in, how many you have playing in the cog. So I want to focus on my teams in second. Let's just show 100. Here's a team in third that's back by 130 points, and it has 6. So that feels good. I think I looked at this one already, though. And you can go to the draft here. This is fun. But then to know how many players they have in the cog, you have to look up their name and find that draft, which is not impossible. I'll show you how I do it. You grab the draft ID, which is right here. So I'm going to grab the draft ID, copy it, and then I have 6 players, and I'm in third. I'm behind by about 130 points. I'll go back to the cog. The teams are West Virginia University fan and Way No Tex. So then I'll go here. I'll search for Wayno Tex, and then I thought I could look up his draft using. I did it before. I looked up his draft using the draft key, but I don't see it showing here. I guess I could just memorize how many points he has. Whoops. I can also memorize how many points he has and then look up his team that has that many points. So let me go to my third place team. Go to draft. Here they are. 31, 6, 8, 50. And I'll copy the other one. Oh. That's cool. I didn't know that would do that. It's a Cootie team. I'm going to copy his number so I can search it for WVU fan. But then for Wayno Tex, 31, 6, 8, 50. I go back here. Go to Wayno. Go to his 31, 6, 8, 50. He's got 2 of them, actually. But it's the one where he's in first. And he's only got 2 players in the cog. And if I go to that draft, that's the one with me in it. Oh, no. Damn. It's not the one with me in it. The one with me in it, he's in second. And he has 4 players in the cog. There's me. You know what? I just figured something else out. You can see how many players he has in the cog right here. Golfers playing right there if I zoomed in. We're learning. We're learning together. This is a new tool. So Wayno Tex has 4 golfers. I have 6. West Virginia fan has 5. So can I make up 130 points with 1 extra golfer? Not likely. Not very good odds. But here's the thing. The Cognizant has a cut. So imagine if all 6 of my players make the cut, or some subset of my 6 make the cut. I still have better odds on how many players remain to the weekend than him. You know, if he only has 2 players make the cut and I have 3 or 4 or 5, that could really help my chances of advancing. So you can go way into this. You can look at which players he has. Obviously, we're in the same draft room, so I don't have any players he has. But this is pretty cool. Wow, Kevin Yu not contributing any points. That's interesting. Hootie with 565 points. The anchor, his last round pick, his best pick on his team. Only in the scramble will you have your best pick on your entire best ball roster in your last round. My team, I have Scotty Scheffler. So we got to get this one through. It's got Gerard. It's got Knapp, Kitayama, Harris English. It's a strong team. Shout out to Joe Highsmith, the reigning Cognizant Classic champ, which is one of the reasons I drafted him, was because he's playing a lot of tournaments, even though he's not very good. Same thing with Rico Hoey. I drafted a bunch of Hoey. He's not been very good, but he plays a lot, so it helps. Can Chris Kirk win the tournament this week? He's a guy in the, as we're previewing the COG this week, and we're going to draft the Underdog Open, Chris Kirk is a guy I like this week a lot. Not been playing great lately, but he wins on tour frequently enough. So yeah, it's pretty fun to sweat out our scrambles this week. And I just found the dark mode, wouldn't you know? Classic. Coolers, aka one of the top 20 advancers in the scramble, says he's drafting Larry Fitzgerald. Hey, Larry's not a bad golfer. And Aaron Rodgers is not a terrible golfer either, but I'm pretty sure I'd take Steph Curry or Tony Romo over them. Huhaim says he's currently drafting Zach Ertz. That's very bold. But it's not the worst pick. Only 3 signature event guys in the field for the COG. Yeah, that's true. Fewer than 5 predicting for the drafts for this. Yeah. Yo, what's up, Andrew? Good to see you, brother. Only did 2 teams in the putting green this week. I'm leaning on Ryan Gerard, Davis Thompson, and Christopher Wrighton. Yeah, I like those picks. I love Gerard this week. I'm actually using Gerard in my one and done, and we'll do some research, and then I'll pull up my one and dones, and we can decide the picks, because I usually have them done by now, but it's Tuesday night, not Wednesday, so we can pull up some one and done picks too. This is a good shout from Andrew on some good selections for this week. I think Davis Thompson's a great pick too. He's a guy I liked in the scramble. I've liked for years. Yeah, Hartman, you know me though. I can't read the chat and stream at the same time. I cannot multitask, so of course it took me like an extra 30 minutes to figure that out. Super fun stuff. Okay, let's jump into the field for the Cognizant. And we'll jump into the tournament predictor. And then we'll review some of the core stats on Twitter. And then we'll draft some Underdog Opens. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Thanks for being here. We've got plenty to go. We've already drafted an Albatross. And now we're previewing the Cognizant. We're going to do one and dones and some battle royales on Underdog, the weekly tournaments. So here's the field. I don't know if it's the best way to show it because I feel like it's super small, but this actually helps. Here we go. Tournament history. I'm going to scroll until I see something interesting. Austin Eckroat. So this is, going right to left, their tournament history. Austin Eckroat won this thing 2 years ago. A name to know. Bo Hostler is actually decent here. He had a top 25 a few years ago, and I don't mind Bo Hostler in this field. Danny Willett has a green jacket, but has not been playing good golf lately. Adam Hadwin hadn't played here since 2021, but he had a top 10 then. He tied for 8th. Hadwin, he's been straddling the PGA Tour. He's playing a lot of Korn Ferry events this year. I'm pretty sure he's not been playing great, but he's been a guy in the past. back in 2023 kind of range. Doug Gim's interesting. 2 top 25s the last 2 years. I like Doug Gim. Joel Damon's in the field, the people's favorite. Sam Ryder, really good tournament history. 2 top 10s and a top 25 in the last 5 years. So let's keep these names in our top of mind as we start to draft these and talk about our one and dones. Max McGreevy finished 4th here last year, pretty solid. I still like Hoey. If he can get his putting together, he can be dangerous. He had a top 25 here last year. Shane Lowry is, for whatever reason, he likes to play here and consistently getting a top 11 in each of the last 4 years. So Lowry for one and dones. It's a good week for him. I might be using him in one of my one and dones, at least one, I think, of my 3. Billy Horschel has some good history here. Nico Echeverria, I think he's a fun name. Has a good chance to do well here. Kevin, you had a top 10 2 years ago. Who else we got? Davis Riley's played it a bunch, but he's never done great here, and he's not in good form right now, so I will say that. And these are the early tee times. It's only 7:45 a.m. These are such early. They're teeing off super early on this one. Webb Simpson, it's been a while. 2018, he got a top 5. Keith Mitchell, Kashmir Keith, he won this thing back in 2019, so he could be a good pick, a sneaky pick for one and dones, and just a good draft pick for this week's Underdog Opens. Chris Kirk had won this 3 years ago in 2023. He's a guy I think has a really good chance to win it again. So he's not in great form right now, but Chris Kirk. They have this group. It's Joe Highsmith who won last year. I would not try to chase that. Playing with Chris Kirk and Kashmir Keith Mitchell. So 3 former winners of the event team off together. That's pretty fun. That'd be a fun group to follow. I bet it's a featured group for sure. Along with the Shane Lowry group. KH Lee. Kind of a sneaky pick. Maybe in some of our underdog drafts. He's got 2 top 10s here in the last, 7 years, but a top 5. He got tied for 4th 2 years ago. And he's not going to be drafted a whole lot, KH Lee. So that's kind of a sneaky pick. Nico Højgaard is probably one of the most expensive by ADP draft picks. I think he's good. He doesn't have a ton of tournament history here. I think he's a fine click. He's a first-round pick right now in the Underdog Open. Had a top 20 last year. So Højgaard's interesting. Who else? Bunch of guys who don't have a lot of history here. Sudarshan Yelamaraju. I think he's interesting. He did pretty decently at the Waste Management. No, he didn't. He crumbled. What? He finished 54th? I thought he did better than that. He did okay at Sony. Tied for 13th. What happened to the Waste Management? I remember watching Sudarshan. It must have been like a Friday. He had a bad Thursday. He had a good Friday. I remember watching him Friday. He played really well. But then he had a bad weekend. So Yelamaraju. I think he's interesting. He's a tall guy. It seems like a good ball striker. So young, up and coming Canadian. I think I already clicked him one time in my par 3 that I drafted earlier this week. I think he's an interesting name to keep on the radar as a scroll down. Alex Smalley, I think, could do well here. Eric Cole has some history here. He's not playing great. I think he might be worth drafting, though. Mark Hubbard's not the worst pick you could make here. Also not playing great lately is the problem. Eric Van Rooyen, sneaky, tied for second and tied for ninth the last two appearances here. I did not know that, so I'm going to keep that in mind. Eric Van Rooyen, famously, Eric Van Ruin Your Weekend is what they call him in DFS, but he worked for the Cognizant at PGA National Resort. Maybe Gary Woodland's got great course history here, just not been playing very good lately, so could be an interesting scroll down. Peter Malnati's in the field. Shout out to Jeff T. I know somebody's going to be drafting some Peter Malnati. Griot's interesting too. He's got okay course history here. I think he's pretty strong relative to this field, but also not been playing great this year so far. Ryan Gerard is probably a very good one and done pick. I think I am using him in my one and done where I was going to use Adam Scott, but then Adam Scott withdrew. So for one and dones, I'm thinking Lowry, Gerard, Homa's in the field. That's pretty interesting. Could we see something big from Michael Brennan? I might chase Michael Brennan. I might be chasing that. Koepka's in the field. It's about time we see something from him. Daniel Berger's got good course history here. It's a huge field. Rasmus Højgaard, expensive. Thor Bjornsson could be fun. Mackenzie Hughes had a second place finish here 5 years ago. Somewhat interesting. Huge field. I mean, there's so many golfers in this field. David Ford's interesting. You remember David Ford from what he did at the American Express? He had a tied for 13th there. And I want to say it was Saturday. Was it Saturday? No, it was Sunday. Sunday at the American Express. He had a nice 65 on the scorecard. So those are some of my thoughts on the field here. Yeah, Peter Malnati 101. We already know that, Jeff. Easy money. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull open my one and dones. And let's make the one and done picks. And then we'll draft on Underdog. My first one and done, or actually my first two, on Splash Sports. It's the Rick Rungood one and done. I need to make my entries. So let's do it. I know in Rick's model, he had brought up Bez earlier in the week on his podcast, Christian Bezadenhout. I'm going to go ahead and take Lowry in this one. Good as time as ever to use him. I'm going to go back to my picks. I'm not doing great in either of these entries so far. I'm under $1 million in both of them, so I need to play catch up. So I just need to go with some of the best bets. And I feel like Gerard and Lowry are the two ways to go with that. Van Rooyen seems a little bit far out for this kind of thing, for this kind of selection. But he might be good for scrolling down for our underdog drafts. Andrew Putnam, maybe a scroll down for the underdog draft, but maybe not this format. I think I'm going to play a bit closer to the, expected usage. And, should I just do Lowry in both of them? That seems kind of redundant. I'll do Gerard on this one again. I have 24 hours, or more to change it. So let me know in your one and dones this week who you're taking. Then now I'm going to pull open my Pat Mayo Classic one and done on the Fantasy Golf Championships.com. The race for the Mayo Cup. Make sure I'm all logged in. There we go. I'm doing decent in this one. I just fell out of the money. I was winning $500 before last week. I currently have Ryan Gerard selected. I might keep it there. I had a top 5. Who did I have? I had Hideki get me $1 million in a top 5 at the Waste Management. So I'm doing decent. I'm just out of the money, but I'm much closer in this one to getting back in. I'm at just under $2 million in this one and done. And the money is 2.4. So a nice showing this week could catch me back up a little bit if I get lucky. All right. I want to go through. Let's go through Greg's, one of his threads for this week. I want to pull open some interesting things. There's 123 players in the field this week at the Bear Trap, PGA National. Let's look at some of his favorite kind of scroll downs before we draft in the Underdog Open. Greg says the weather honestly looks pretty nice, especially if you're on the East Coast. Shout out to people on the East Coast shoveling out of snow right now in the crazy blizzard, the nor'eastern or whatever's going on there. Johnny Kiefer, hey, we know him from our Albatross drafts. Intriguing this week. He's gained at least 4 strokes ball striking. That'd be off the tee and his approach. In his last 4 starts, he's made every cut, but failed to crack a top 25 in some of these harder fields this week. This week at the Cognizant, the field is a little bit lighter, not as difficult. So can he have a nice week putting? So John Kiefer, one to think about. Tom Kim. Tom Kim has not been doing a whole lot compared to his expectation on the tour lately, but Tom Kim, he's gaining strokes, putting here, and off the tee in 4 of his 5. David Ford, a guy that I was highlighting, he won on the PGA Tour University last season, the PGA Tour U, but gets very little attention. This place is perfect for him. He's 20th in strokes gained off the tee, 9th in driving accuracy, 12th in strokes gained approach, and he's pretty decent in all these different ranges. He's a hot putter away from a win. I like that shout. Marty Dow. He's made every cut this year. He had a tied for 13th in Phoenix. He's gained strokes on approach in 2 of 4 starts and around the green and putting in his last 2 starts. So that's an interesting scroll down. I bet you not very highly owned Marty Dow. Andrew Putnam, don't forget, he did tie for second just 2 starts ago at the American Express in Palm Desert. He got tied for 11th here last year. He's gaining on approach. So Putnam's a good scroll down as well. Adam Hadwin, who we also called out because of his course history here. Last time he played, he got tied for 8th back in 2021. It's been a while. But yeah, could Adam bounce back? So if we go to Greg's profile, he also has a thread on the course and how the course plays. Repost that. The Florida Swing begins this week at the COG PGA National. Let's look at the course, and now we're going to look at some of the top favorite plays. So those were our scroll down picks. Dow, Ford, Hadwin, Kiefer. Now let's get into our top plays for the week. It's a tough, relatively tough course. There's a lot of water. It has the third most water balls on the PGA Tour. So get ready for a lot of Pat Mayo tweeting out, "Oh, I didn't know you like to get wet" memes, if you know what I'm talking about. Every time a golfer hits a ball into the water. 327 water balls in 2016. That's incredible. The course has been playing easier the last 3 seasons. They changed it a bit. It went from a par 70 to par 71 by adding length and making number 10 a par 5. That makes it easier. Par 5s are easier than par 4s. We know that. But then the scoring average went down. Interesting. So 69 scoring average. The overseed on the golf course. The fairways were overseeded instead of just the rough. Softens the course. It plays easier, better lies to hit irons from and pitch from. So the course is played easier in 2025 than it has in each of the past 10 years. In these categories: birdie average, scoring average, par 3, par 4, greens in regulation, proximity, scrambling, water balls, bogey average. Okay, but they changed some things ahead of 2026. They added 20 yards to number 2. The rough is up to 3 inches, only 2.5 inches last year. So the rough is a little bit more penal this year. They got the ryegrass overseed. The keys to success remain the same. You want to drive well. You need to gain strokes off the tee and be accurate. Your approach shots also have a lot of water with them, not just off the tee. So you want to go for birdies, of course. Last 6 winners made at least 18 birdies. So 5 of the last 6 winners were top 20 in strokes gained approach. The last 4 winners were top 25 in proximity to the hole. Makes it easier to putt. So good drivers of the ball and iron play from 125 to 200. About 60% of approach shots will be in that range, including the most challenging shots on the par 3s. These par 3s have been the top 7 hardest on the tour in 9 of the last 10 years. Wow. So some of the top plays, we talked about them. Nico Højgaard. He's been playing very well. He's gaining strokes off the tee. He's a great driver of the ball. He's a good on approach. He's playing well. He's putting well. Recently, he got 18th here last year and 6 top 25s in his last 7 worldwide starts, including some starts on the DP World Tour. Pretty impressive. Not bad. I like that. So, obviously, Nico's going in the first round of drafts, but it seems like a good course fit as it is. Keith Mitchell, Cashmere Keith, playing in the winners featured group with Joe Highsmith. Seems like a good fit. He's won here before. He has the 11th best course history in this field with 3 top 10s here. Michael Thorbjornsen. That's a name we were calling out too. He didn't do that great here last year, but he putts well on Bermuda grass. He's a great driver. We know that. Could be better in greens and regulation, but he's good on his iron approaches. So Thorbjornsen, do we see him break out and get a win here? Alex Smalley is a click that I thought would be a good fit here as well. A guy that I was drafting in the scramble to play here at the COG. And pretty decent fit. Haotong Lee who's one of our, standout ball strikers. So playing off the tee and with his iron approach shots, he's playing fairly well. He's finished top 11 in 4 of his last 6 worldwide starts, including the DP World Tour. So shout out to Greg, the Second Cut crew, one of my favorite golf pods. And we got a course preview now. We've done it. We've looked into the field. We've looked into the course history, the scroll down plays, the top plays. The last thing we got to look at before we draft these teams, the blinding light of the light mode. But it's the tournament predictor. I'll stay down here so we can see. This is 10,000 simulations from Rick Rungood and how often these players are going to win this tournament. We got Nico Echeverria coming in at 5% wins. So that would be 500 out of 10,000 sims. And kind of in the 4 to 5% range in this top tier. So it's Nico, Shane Lowry, Michael Thorbjornsen. Hey, does that ring a bell? Aaron Rye, who you would expect to play well in a field of this strength. Daniel Berger, who has got great course history here. Garrick Higo is kind of a surprising name, and he's going late in these drafts, so that's an interesting one. Ryan Gerard, of course, right up there. So pretty standard stuff, but Nico Echeverria, you can get him late in the drafts. Thorbjornsen's going cheaply enough. Berger going cheap enough, if I do remember his ADP right. And then Higo is a total scroll down pick. Gerard is a top pick here. Shane Lowry's a top pick here. Rise, 100% drafted. Let's look at guys who are kind of in this plus 1% chance to win range, starting from the bottom. Cam Davis, Tom Kim, Eric Cole, Max McGreevy, Matty Schmid, Michael Brennan, I think is a great scroll down name. Justin Lauer, Davis Thompson, another good name. Stephen Yeager, I think he could do well here too in this kind of field strength. Alex Smalley, Chris Kirk, guys I like. Rico Hoey, I like. Zalatoris pops here. This might be the time to play Zalatoris. He hasn't been playing a whole lot. Can we get something out of Willie Z here? Davis Riley, I think, is underrated. He hasn't been playing great, but he can definitely win in a field of this strength. He's won in tougher fields, like winning at the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial, going toe-to-toe with Scotty Scheffler. So Davis Riley is underrated. Nick Dunlap, do we see him bounce back? He's been awful off of the tee, so I'm a little bit hesitant there. You can see with Dunlap, he only has a 33% chance to make the cut, but he's like a 2% chance to win the whole thing, which seems kind of paradoxical, but high risk, high reward play, I would guess, and he's definitely low owned. Nikolai Højgaard is going to be one of the most over drafted players. He's going in the first round, but he has a great chance to make the cut. I think helps. He's kind of still in this, not that impressive on his chance to win though. Homa is interesting, a low percent chance to make the cut, but a good percent chance to win. So that's another play, but he gets drafted a lot. Bezadenhout is a good fit here. And we get the other Højgaard, Rasmus Højgaard. Interesting name, AJ Ewart, and he only has 20 rounds played, so that's kind of a tough to figure out how he fits here. He's definitely going underdrafted. I don't know if I'll have any exposure to him, but he sims very well, so that's interesting, I will say. I'm also going to sort this by percent make cut because we need players to make the cut to score in our lineups. Looks like Ewart has the best chance to make the cut, followed by Rasmus Nergaard Peterson, Thorbjorn Olesen, and Nico Højgaard. So here we see Haotong Lee fitting a strong chance to make the cut. Perry, Kuchar, S.H. Kim, Whaley, Castillo, Matt Wallace, Smalley. The biggest risk to make the cut, but to have a decent chance to win, Cam Davis, Pavon, Justin Lauer. Brooks Koepka. 50-50 to make the cut, but also not a good chance to win. He doesn't sim out very well. So we're going to be fading, avoiding Brooks Koepka. I think, unfortunately, Billy Horschel as well. And probably also Gary Woodland. Will Zalatoris. Probably a fade. Where's Highsmith on this list? Where's Joe? There's Kiefer. Not a good chance to win it, but 60% chance to make the cut. I feel like I haven't seen Joe Highsmith yet, but I'm sure I passed him. I'm just curious what his odds are to win it, considering he won it last year. Joe Highsmith. Impossible to know. Just anytime you're looking for a certain player, they're impossible. Okay, there he is. Only a 36% chance he makes the cut, and less than 0.5% chance he wins this thing in 10,000 simulations. So that should say enough. All right. Time to jump in some drafts. Let's go into, so the par 3, I've done 2 of those. I usually like to do about 3 of those a week. The Underdog Open, we'll rip some of these. Top prize, 8,000 up top. So I don't know how many of these I'll do exactly. Maybe somewhere between like 5 and 8. And then mixing in these other classic Underdog. Can't find the location. Mixing in some of these other contests, like a $3 and a $5 price point. If you look at the other ones they have, Underdog Open, $10, 9,000 entrants for $8K to first. The par 3, $1K to first, $3 entry. I'll do about 3 or 4 of those. I don't do the sandbagger. The Pat Mayo is $20 entry. It's pretty steep, but there's no rake. The putting green is nice. I usually like to do about 2 of those, $5 a piece. So I'll probably do 2 of those, 3 or 4 of these, and somewhere between 5 and 8 of these Underdog Opens. So I'm going to have some concentrated bets on low volume. If the Underdog Open doesn't fill, I will also jump into a par 3, and maybe that could fill. Let's see. Par 3 is waiting for 2. I'm going to track it on my phone. I'm looking to join an Underdog Open or a par 3. I'll let you know which one fills first. 4. Waiting on 2 for the par 3. Waiting on 3 for the Underdog Open. I'm going to tweet this out and see if we get anyone else who wants to join, and also just promote it as we wait here and try to fill this thing. Oh, waiting on 1. Okay. We're waiting on 2 in the Underdog Open. We're waiting on 1 for a par 3. I'm gonna say yeah, so the Underdog Open filled, hell yeah. I'm gonna jump out of the par 3 and we'll save that one. And we'll see if we can just, I thought the Underdog Open would fill relatively quickly. I'm glad it did, because I want to do more than 1. I want to do a couple. We always do like 3 to 5 on stream. And I get the 102, not bad. Let me see. How do I do this? There it is. Drafting the Underdog Open. I'm going to tag Underdog because I'm going to tag Underdog and Underdog Golf and Underdog Drafts. Boom. All right, I'm on the clock. What do we do here? Look, Brooks kept going in the first round. We could do Højgaard. I think we should go Gerard. Gerard or Thor Bjornsson or Shane Lowry. Shane's gone. Let's go Gerard. Yeah, Gerard, Thor Bjornsson, Keith Mitchell, Daniel Berger look pretty interesting there. Rye, Echeverria. Where was Rye going? Yeah, Rye goes pretty high up. Second round. Where was Nico Echeverria going? Pretty late. Berger goes high up. Yeah, Brooks is way overdrafted right now. I like McGreevy. We like Smalley. Davis Thompson, Bezaden Hout. Kiefer. Wow, Kiefer's gone up a bunch, it looks like to me. I didn't think he was going that high. Maybe he was. I just overlooked it. Kirk. Hoey. Highsmith hasn't had a top 15 almost a year. Never considered drafting Joe Highsmith. Yeah, I know that. To me, he was interesting for the scramble because he won an event last year, the Cog, and he's going to play the Cog again. So he's pretty much a guaranteed play at the Cog. And in the scramble, you can get some depth and some guys who just like hit your lineup. But yeah, imposter Chris in the 5 spot. I've seen that Chris in a lot of these drafts. Solid username. Hey, anytime you can get a username without any numbers and letters and things after it, that like Candyman, the one, the only, always feels good. Blades Brown, do we draft him? Probably not. Michael Brennan, I think yes. Eric Cole, there's worse picks. Putnam, there's worse picks. Jaeger's fine. There's a huge field. Ford and Ryder. So Ryder's really interesting. He was one guy that popped with course history. Garrick Higo hits the model. Gim was hitting some course history for us. K.H. Lee. I don't think I've gotten to his name yet. Royan was... Eric Van Rooyen was interesting. Let me go with McGreevy here. So Gerard, McGreevy. Thompson goes. Honestly, I feel like here ADP is not going to matter because there's 120 guys in the field. I'm going to go Nico. I'm going to trust the model. I'm going to trust the Sims. Echeverria has the best chance to win this thing. Let's draft him. Zayden Hout was the other guy I was considering taking there, kind of closer to ADP as it is. Riley, Owie, Kirk, Smalley, Yeager. Did I pass Riley, or did I already queue him? Didn't get to him yet. Technically, he's probably not drafted. You can really scroll down this week. This is like the ultimate scroll down week. There's KH Lee. He's totally draftable. Shout out Peter Malnati. Who am I looking for down here? Who am I looking for? That's it. We hit the whole list. Wow. Did I queue up Ford? I must have. There he is. And Ryder. Ford and Ryder. I don't want to forget them. So I think I've gotten 3 players who are drafted about 100% of the time so far. I think my last 3 picks, I'm going to take players who are scroll downs because there's such an advantage to not drafting the same 36 players over and over again, considering there'll be 90 other players who go undrafted. So when like 3/4 of the field is undrafted, there's just so much leverage in taking those guys against the field in a large field tournament with 8,000 people, top heavy prizes. That's the way I look at it, at least. I think that makes sense. So I've gotten 3, I would call conservative picks, guys who are getting drafted often. I'm going to be scrolling down now. Coming back around in the 4th round. I've got a bunch of players in my queue. So I'm gonna make sure my guys' ADPs are like late 30s plus. So no Hoey on this team. Brennan could be on this team. I'm going to start with Ryder. Sam Ryder, I think, has a bunch of good course history here. Let's just fire off and take Sam Ryder. I think for this first one, I am going to end up going Davis Riley. I might just have a soft spot for Davis Riley. I was there in person on Sunday when he won at Colonial in 2024. So I've seen him win on a tough stage, a tough golf course. And then I'm cool with any of these guys with my last pick. Royan, Hostler, Hadwin, Gim. Kind of like Ford. Might go Ford. I kind of like Brennan too, though. I think Michael Brennan, we've been waiting to see what he can do. Can he have a big, splashy finish or a win here? There's some scroll down. David Lipsky goes. Someone searched out Homa's name. I don't remember what his ADP is, but I felt like his ADP wasn't super high. Or was it? Let's see. Homa. It was. No, Homa's ADP was super high for how bad he's been playing lately. Blades Brown is like the biggest dart throw in this field. You guys remember, didn't he shoot a 60 at the American Express on Saturday? Let's go to Blades. If he's even in Data Golf. He is. The American Express. It was Friday. He shot a 60 going into the weekend. Yeah, he was like tied for the lead at one point. He was in the top 3. Kind of faded, but what do you expect? I mean, the guy, he's literally a teenager. Very impressive. I don't think I would bet on him to win the Cognizant. Maybe he can have another top 25 finish. Definitely talented. Definitely a name to keep an eye on. I remember the overreaction to Blades Brown shooting a 60 at the American Express on that Friday. People were drafting him in the Albatross, and I just thought it was a little bit of an overreaction, or about as much as you can possibly overreact. It's not like he's going to win a major just because he shot a 60 in Palm Desert on a Friday, but it's very impressive for his age. Hey, David Ford, boom. The team for the Underdog Open from the 102. I go Gerard, McGreevy, Echeverria. I scroll down for Ryder, Riley, and Ford. Let's fire off another Underdog Open. See how fast this one fills. Instant fill. Nice. Perfect timing. I bet you this room will be some of the same guys then if we all jumped from that last draft to this one. Let's wait and see. See what draft spot I got. Yeah, Chris is in here again. I'm back in the 2 spot. Again with Chris and TF5858, who's in the last draft as well. Interesting username in the 1 spot. It's so long. The 102, if I can't get Lowry, I'll probably go Thor Bjornsson this time. The fact that Højgaard goes ahead of Lowry is pretty interesting. I don't think that's right. Højgaard ahead of Gerard is kind of interesting too. And then obviously Brooks Koepka going at 8 is like insane. And we've learned that over the last couple of weeks with Brooks playing on the tour and not looking so good. In fact, has Brooks gained any strokes in any tournament he's played so far? I don't think so. Farmers tied 56. Barely gained strokes. Terrible at putting. Phoenix Open cut. The place that he'd formerly won. Twice. 2015, 2021, and gets cut there. So he's just out of form. Tough scene. Do not draft in the Albatross until further notice. Don't draft Brooks Koepka in any fantasy golf and anything until further notice. I don't know why you would. I would have liked to get Berger. Rye is a nice pick. Let's go Rye. Lowry and Rye, they feel like they are golfers that we could expect to perform well in an even stronger field than this. So I like those picks. I'm going to look up Davis Thompson real quick. I thought he was up here. Comparing him, though, to Zayden Hout. Looks like Zayden Hout has a better chance to make cut and win. Davis Thompson, a little bit lower. So I'm going to go with Bez on this one. And then Hoey, kind of in the same range as those two. So this core is going to be Lowry, Rye, the Zayden Hout. And then I'm going to have to scroll down for my last picks. We'll find some of those other names that we liked that I had queued up last time that we didn't end up selecting. Let's see. Oh, Kirk goes. Nice. But again, Kirk's getting drafted every time. We got to scroll down already. That's the advantage we have this week. We know better. Van Rooyen. Eric Van Rooyen. We can get into some Putnam, Jaeger, Higo, why not? Hostler. Hadwin. I'll go Jaeger first. Who else did we talk about? Oh, Dow. Does Marty go by Zay Cheng? I don't know. I thought it was... Yeah. They call him Marty, but... Yeah, that's him. Take a Putnam. And then for my last pick, it's like, don't want to go Hostler, Hadwin, Dow, Higo, Royan. Crazy to me that in back-to-back drafts, we see Homa going exactly at pick 24. So, I mean, he is just way overdrafted relative to his recent performance and the how big the field is. I mean, look at the guys we're seeing getting drafted. There's some different names, but again, Tom Kim, Damon, Homa, Zalatoris, Kiefer, Kirk, Hoey, and Echeverria. I mean, I agree with both of those names. I would venture to say that Godzilla is a Rick Rungood subscriber based on his drafting. Wow, Jordan Smith, that's a scroll down. I like that. Change it up. Matt Wallace, a scroll down. Bjorn Olesen. Castillo, that's a definite scroll down pick. Now we're talking, people. Do we do Van Rooyen? We've been talking him up. Let's get it over with. Van Rooyen on this team. Lowry, Rye, Zayden Hout, Jaeger, Putnam, Van Rooyen. Interesting. Very international player pool. I mean, there's a ton of Americans in here. Maybe they're going overlooked. Guys like Kevin Roy or Kevin Roy. Eckroat. We need to get some Eckroat in here. He's a former winner. Eric Cole's not the worst pick. Who else? All right, into another one. The Underdog Open. Let's go. Waiting on 3 to fill. Give it a couple minutes. Make sure you smash that like button for me. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the channel, or if you're watching this later in the future, if you're watching some PGA best ball golf content, make sure you're subscribed. I was kind of surprised to know actually half of all of my viewers are not subscribed to my YouTube channel. I've got a goal to hit 1,000 subs before the start of the NFL season, and we're getting pretty close, but I need your help, so it's free. Do me a favor, subscribe, support the channel, and let's jump right back into this draft. Oh, it didn't fill. That was one of my slow drafts going on the clock for my NFL best ball. Let's go back to the tournament predictor. And I want to highlight some names that I might get into that are both scroll downs and looking very good in the model. I don't understand why AJ Ewert is showing up so highly in the model. We got to research this more. Maybe it's a bug. I can't think of why he'd be popping like that. I guess he's playing well. He's flying under my radar a little bit. He's not playing incredibly well, but 28 at Phoenix is good, and he gained strokes everywhere except for putting. Is he a ball striker? Not really. His approach is not great. His drive's not great. Accuracy's average. He's probably popping in the model because he's been playing a lot of his course histories on PGA Tour of Americas, and so that's going to give him a different weighting on maybe some of his stats. I think that's why he's been popping in the model. So I am going to kind of take that with a grain of salt, but wow, Nick Dunlap, he either misses the cut or he potentially wins this thing 2% of the time. Is pretty wild. We just drafted Jaeger and Riley. I wouldn't be afraid of taking Riley again, considering, I don't know, 50% chance to make the cut is pretty risky, but a high chance to win it. You could argue it's similar to Will Zalatoris, but Will Zalatoris is getting drafted 100% of the time versus Davis Riley is never getting drafted just by me. Essentially, I'm the first person to draft him in this thing. Let's go for cut makers this time. John Perry, I just saw him get drafted, but maybe that's the interest in him, is the fact that he can make the cut. Vince Whaley, we just saw Castillo get drafted, and Matt Wallace. Mac Meissner. Austin Smotherman's kind of interesting. He has no % chance to win this thing, though, which is not encouraging, so I take that back. I'm going to go ahead and resort by win percentage. And then kind of train my eye to this far right column, the value, and it should help us identify players who are good values in DFS, might also be good values for our underdog scroll downs. So they're not loving Keith Mitchell, interestingly enough. And Brooks Koepka is the worst pick on the board. We already knew that. Who else is a good value? Adam Schenk, I think, is interesting for sure. Pretty low chance to make the cut, though. That's not encouraging. Same thing with Pavone. Cam Davis, wow, only a 35% chance to make the cut. That's surprising. Not been playing well for him. Waiting on one more person for an Underdog Open. About to rip our third one of the night. Matty Schmid. He has been popping a lot in the models all season. I don't know why. Lauer. Okay, our draft is starting. I'm in the 6th spot this time. So what did I learn from looking at this list? I might want to go back to the well on Davis Riley. And then some of the names that Greg had mentioned in his article for scrolling down, we can revisit. I mean, Ford is one of them that stands out to me. Dow. We just took Putnam and then Hadwin. So Hadwin, Dow. We could do Ford again. I don't even mind Doug Gim. Ford again is interesting. Riley. Hadwin. All of these guys have the ADP that I like. Even Higo. Is Higo really getting drafted? No, he hasn't really had a great start to the year either. He pops in the model a little bit more than you would expect, just like Ewart does. Garrick Higo. Nah, cut, 60 cut. So it'd be a big turnaround for him. We like Berger, right? Berger, Rye, Thor Bjornsson. Let's go Daniel Berger. I have 2 picks, of course. I just took Rye. Do Smalley. I don't think I took Smalley in that first draft, but either way. Pretty standard stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys who are getting overdrafted going the first 2 rounds, the rooms look somewhat consistent in that way. There's a different pick. Classic draft pick from PP Butt says, I want to take Thorbjorn Olesen in the 2nd round. He's already starting to scroll down. Let's see what Clever Squirrel does. Yeah, Lowry, Thompson, Haotung Lee. I like that start. That's nice. Great picks. Can't argue with the 2 spot. Gerard, Rye, Kiefer. What will PP Butt do next? In the 3rd round, after taking Thorbjorn Olesen, he goes Christopher Wrighton. So he's starting to scroll down. He takes Olesen, who does get drafted every draft, but usually pick 23. And then Wrighton has an ADP of 32. So we're scrolling. What do I want to do with these 2 picks? I'm ready to take some of these reach down the board guys. But Zadenhout's still there. I think he is one worth getting another share of. And maybe even Nico. I'll do Zadenhout and Nico, and then my last 2 picks will be big time scroll downs. From the 6th spot, I feel like it's a little bit different from the 6th spot versus drafting out of the 2 spot, the last 2. I feel like I want to grab some falling value and then also scroll down to the last 2 picks. Jordan Smith getting drafted in the last 2 drafts. I think it's the same drafter though, so he just kind of has his own ranks, it looks like. I would potentially take Tom Kim, but his AP is high enough that he's getting drafted a bunch, and I don't really want to do that. I'm not so confident in him anyways. Let's go Marty Dow and taking Adam Hadwin. Why not? The team from the 6th spot, I go Berger, Smalley, Zadenhout, Echeverria, Dow, Hadwin. And then, I'll be drafting a few more of these tomorrow before that early Thursday morning tee time. So I'll be working on my exposures. I'll see how the ADP changes a little bit. I'm telling you, this is the tournament to scroll down. So if you're drafting the Underdog Open or any of the PGA Best Ball weekly tournaments on Underdog, make sure you scroll down, get some guys, go find some sneaky guys in there. I think we took a few of them tonight. And good luck at the Cog this week. We're going to be sweating out our scrambles. We're going to be looking forward to getting that much closer to the start of major season. And we're getting to the Florida swing. So I'll be live again for Birdie Hunting, my weekly PGA Best Ball show, every Tuesday night going forward. So Tuesday nights, and we'll be previewing. What are we previewing next week? Next week we're previewing. I can't even think about it because it's midnight and I can't think. Oh, the API. Yeah, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. It's the API. The return of Justin Thomas to the PGA Tour. So there's a lot to talk about for that. We'll draft some more Albatross teams and all of that fantasy golf goodness. Thanks for being here. Make sure you're subbed. Make sure you hit the like. Catch y'all in another one real soon. Peace out. Have a great Tuesday night. Have a great Wednesday. Let's advance those scramble teams. That's what I'm mostly sweating this week. Even though we're doing the weeklies, we're drafting the Albatross. It's a huge week for the scramble. So good luck, everyone. Peace out.